in many ways, actually we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't need to be here. Because if the Conservatives had stuck to their promises, if the Conservatives hadn't locked down the country, which was the biggest act of self-harm that we've seen in our lifetimes, if the Conservatives hadn't opened the borders, if the Conservatives hadn't committed us to the lunacy of net zero, we wouldn't need to be doing this. And then if Labour had come in, having thrown out the Conservatives, if Labour had come in and were delivering for working people and not putting taxes up even further and not opening the borders even more and not being even more committed to net zero lunacy, again, we wouldn't need to be here. But here we are, because we need to be here. And our country needs us to be here. And this constituency needs you to be here and to take what you hear from this meeting and go out and spread the word and build the branch, build the organisation and take the fight to those other parties. But of course, even in the context of needing to be here, we still physically shouldn't be here in this room on this evening. We should be out there knocking on doors, putting leaflets out, campaigning, so that in just over 2 weeks' time, we could win a majority on Surrey County Council. But unfortunately, the unholy alliance of Labour's Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, and the Conservative leader of Surrey County Council, Tim Oliver, they conspired to make sure that you don't have an election this year, you don't have a voice, and that those councillors can carry on earning their allowances, making the decisions that they're making without any fresh democratic mandate. Now, I think that's unacceptable, and I hope you do too. But as we are here, physically, tonight, we'll have a chat about what this party has achieved over the last year and where it's heading. It has been a roller coaster of a year. I mean, turn back the clock not that long ago, just over a year ago, the Wellingborough by-election, where I was working very, very hard on that campaign, having worked on a lot of the previous by-election campaigns, but that was the one where I first felt that actually we're onto something here. It was the first time when we were knocking on a door and you say, hello, I'm from Reform UK, and the automatic response wasn't Reform who? People knew who we were, people knew who our candidate was, people were starting to understand what the party was about, and as a result, we were starting to build some meaningful support. So I knew by the time we got to polling day, that would have been our best by-election result so far, and indeed it was. It was 13%. Now that sounds quite poor now, in comparison to what's happened since. We had the general election, where on every key metric, we smashed what UKIP had achieved previously in 2015, in terms of members of parliament elected, 5 of them, in terms of the raw number of votes, 4.1 million, and in terms of that vote share, almost 15%. All 3 of those metrics, we had overachieved what UKIP had done. And that was without having already had a strong base in local government, which UKIP had, and it's without having previously, the year before, won a national poll, which UKIP did with the European elections. So that was a fantastic achievement. And I thought, great, okay, we really are onto something now. And psychologically, it was so important to win more than one constituency. Because we know the voting system, first past the post, is rigged to make sure that small parties like us can't make that breakthrough. But we showed that we can. And there were probably another 2-3 million people who seriously thought about voting for us, but didn't, because on the day, their pencil kind of hovered across the ballot paper, but they thought, oh no, Reform can't win. We've shown that we can. And that's why now, really, really important to show that we can win in more than one place at one time, and that's why we're going to do so much better when we do get the opportunity to have another election. And of course, since the general election, the polling, you've all seen the polling, it's gone off the charts. Pretty much every poll since the election has shown us significantly ahead of where we were in the election. Pretty much every poll now has us either in first or second place. The Conservatives are flatlining, and we are definitely the real alternative to Labour. We saw a poll came out overnight in the Red Wall, really important areas in the north, in the Midlands, where they do have elections taking place in a couple of weeks' time, and we're ahead. We're on 30%, our first score of 30%, I think, in any poll anywhere. That shows the direction of travel, the momentum that we're really, really building. And then, of course, the membership, which is where you guys all come in. I mean, how many of you were sat at home on Boxing Day watching the ticker and pressing refresh, and just seeing until we eclipse the Conservatives? That feels like a lifetime ago now. Yeah, we're now over 220,000 members, so we're probably double what the Conservatives have actually got now. And within a few months' time, we will be snapping at the heels at Labour as well. We will be the largest mass membership political organisation in the country. And that gives us fresh energy, fresh enthusiasm, fresh volunteers, an army, the people's army, that will go out and fight those elections week in, week out. We have council by-elections. And since Kemi Badenoch became Conservative Party leader, the Conservatives have made a net gain of 11 seats in council by-elections, we've made a net gain of 12 seats. So again, the momentum is very clearly with us. Now, in London, the highlight really last year came before the general election, certainly for me personally, as I had the honour and privilege of my life to be elected as Reform UK's first member of the London Assembly. And so in that time since then, it's the main focus of my job is to try to hold Sadiq Khan to account, because the Assembly is elected alongside the Mayor, and we're there to hold him to account. And my God, there's an awful lot to hold him to account for. Because on every issue that affects Londoners on a day-to-day basis, he is failing. On housing, the government has even cut London's housing targets as a recognition of the fact that he has failed to deliver the targets that were already in place for London. On crime, we have 52,000 mobile phones stolen over the last year. That's 1,000 a week. Have a rape reported every hour. Burglary is effectively decriminalised. I submitted an FOI request to the Met, asked what percentage of burglaries in outer London result in either a court summons or a charge. Can you guess? 2%, exactly. 2%. That means 98% go nowhere. That's very poor value for taxpayers, poor value for victims, and it simply is unacceptable. We have 15,000 incidents involving knives or sharp objects over the last year. Again, totally unacceptable. Sadiq Khan and the Met have lost control of London streets. And there's not an awful lot the Assembly itself can do. It doesn't have much in the way of power. Most of the power of decision making is concentrated in the hands of the Mayor. But what we can do is ask questions, debate motions, and in theory at least we can try to amend the Mayor's budget. So I tried to do that. Unfortunately, because I'm only one member, and to get anything formally tabled, you need a proposer and a seconder. I'm in the same situation as Harrison on the council. You know, I have no friends, and we can we'll chat to each other in the corridor and smile and say hello, good morning. But when it comes to actually trying to help me out, none of them will help me out. So when I tried to propose my budget amendments, the Mayor's question time the week before, I cheekily asked the Mayor, would you encourage any member from any party just to second it so it can be debated? And do you know what he said? He said, as a rule of thumb, I will never encourage anyone to work with reform. So that's what I'm up against. And the Tories are no better. When it came to the debate, and I said what I would have said if I had been able to propose it properly, and the Tories were silent, and then Susan Hall got up and was extremely patronising and rude, and basically said that my figures didn't add up, and there were columns in the spreadsheet which didn't have numbers in, and all that kind of stuff. And it just reminded me of why I left the Conservatives in the first place, because that sense of entitlement, arrogance, complacency, they are not the answer to this failing government. We are. And another thing that the Assembly can do is we can debate motions. Again, to get it debated, you need a proposer and a seconder. So I've tried to get things tabled. No one's helped me out. But obviously take part in debates on other people's motions. And a little while ago, the Labour group put forward a motion to give illegal migrants free bus transport across London. And I was the only member to vote and speak against it. The Tories, they sat on their hands, they abstained, they didn't want to engage because it was too difficult for them to engage in that issue. Again, totally unacceptable. They are not the answer. We are. I think deep down inside, I think all of us probably knew that the Labour government would be pretty awful. We know that Labour's instincts are to put up taxes, to increase control over people's lives, and to not have a great degree of sympathy for the people who actually go out there, create the jobs, create the economic activity, run their own businesses. And you can see from the Labour front bench, not a single person on the Labour front bench has ever set up or run their own business. They've never had to employ people, they've never had to sack people, they've never had to pay people, they've never had to make those decisions that actually, having made those decisions, you know how things work and you know how to get a better result at the end of it. So we knew they'd be awful. And we've seen it. We've seen them scrapping the winter fuel allowance. We've seen them releasing dangerous prisoners from prison in order to make space for locking people up who happen to have said perhaps not very sensible things and not very savoury things on Twitter or Facebook. But come on, violent offenders has got to be a higher priority for keeping inside, not people commenting on social media. We need the police and the judicial system to be policing our streets, not our tweets. So we know Labour were going to be rubbish, and they've proven themselves to be so. But that doesn't let the Tories off the hook. I used to be a Tory. I was a member of the Conservatives for 21 years. Feels like a lifetime. I've met many good friends through the Conservatives. Indeed, I met my husband through the Conservatives, and he's unfortunately still a member. I'm still working on that one, and hopefully by the time of the next election, I might win him round. But what they did to our country in that 14 years is unforgivable. They started the move to put up taxes. They started the commitment to net zero. They started the open borders, and they made that catastrophic decision to lock down the country, shut down the economy, print lots of money with nothing to back it up, and then wonder why we had runaway inflation. So we must never let the Conservatives off the hook. And if any Conservative tries to tell you that, oh, well, we really believe in the same things and we should work together, we should have an agreement, a pact, something like that before the election because it's more important to get Labour out, don't believe a word of it. We are not here to play games with the Conservatives. We are here to replace the Conservatives. And nothing makes that more apparent to me than on this question of net zero. I said earlier, lockdown was the biggest act of self-harm that we've had in our lifetimes. Well, net zero is going to be a whole lot worse. And the Conservatives are not doing anything about it either. At City Hall, the Mayor's budget, so we had the budget meeting, and he made great noise about the fact he's now spending £1.19 billion on the Metropolitan Police. Now, it sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money. And to his credit, it is the most that the police in London has ever had spent on it by a mayoral administration. But he spends £1.4 billion on climate change and net zero. So where are his priorities? He says that keeping London streets safe is his top priority. Well, if you want to know what someone's priority are, you follow the money. So I made that point. And again, the Conservatives just sat there in silence. And they won't challenge that. It's up to me to do that. And you'll see the same from Kemi Badenoch. You might have heard she's trying to give the impression that she's rowing back on net zero a little bit. But she hasn't committed to scrapping the Climate Change Act or the Climate Change Committee. She hasn't committed to scrapping that legally binding net zero by 2050 target, and she won't. And that's why, again, we cannot believe a word they say. All she's said is that we need to find an easier way of doing it that doesn't cost quite so much. We need a better plan. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we in Reform UK, we have a plan for net zero. We plan to cancel it. It really is that simple. And so to the Conservatives, I say, no deals, no pacts, no mergers. We have a plan for you too. We plan to cancel you too. And that's why this round of elections not happening in Surrey and not happening in Essex, which is originally the county of my birth, but they are happening in, I think, 23 councils up and down the country. That's why these elections are so important. The Conservatives go into these elections defending the lion's share of seats and councils, because the time that this cycle was last up was at the height of Boris's vaccine bounce, his popularity. They did very, very well. So they have an awful lot to lose, and we need to make sure that we're the ones picking up those seats, not Labour, not the Lib Dems. So we're going to be doing that. I'm going to be going to various places in the next 2 weeks in order to help campaigning there, because it's so important that we do that. Because UKIP had a base in local government that added that sense of credibility to them. We need to have the same, and we will have the same. The polling is strong, the membership is strong, the activity on the ground is stronger than anything this party has seen to date. And it's now up to all of us to make sure we get those results, because it is a huge opportunity. And the fact that the Labour government has become so terrible while the Conservative government is still fresh in people's memories means there is a huge space in British politics for something different. And that's what we're doing. A party that will put our country first, that will stop the boats and control the borders, that will deliver cheaper energy by not insisting on net zero lunacy, that will cut taxes, raise the income tax threshold to £20,000, make work pay. That's how we make Britain work. That's how we get the economy moving. That's how we get the growth that then can pay for the public services that we all need and rely on. So that opportunity is there. But for it to happen, we have to take it. So this is why everything that you're doing now and are going to be doing now is far more important than anything that any of us on the top table here tonight have done so far. Far important, even more, than anything Nigel has done so far. The important work on the ground, that's how we're going to win. So forming the branches, filling the committee positions, planning your campaigns, printing your canvas sheets, writing your leaflets, going out on doorsteps, doing street stalls, those are the things that are going to take this party forward to the next step. And they might have cancelled your elections this year, but I certainly hope they haven't cancelled your spirit, because you're going to need an awful lot of it. But I know you've got it, and I know you're going to work hard, and I know you're going to deliver. So together, all of us, at every level, we work hard to get Reform UK councillors elected. When London election comes back round again, there'll be a group of us, it won't just be me. And when we get to that general election in 2029, we will have a Reform majority in the House of Commons, we will have Nigel Farage as Prime Minister, and then we really can change politics for good. Brilliant. Thank you.